If I meet somebody, for the most part, I can't tell what race they are. I can't tell if you're, fat or skinny, if you're well dressed. So I just go on what I feel is inside the person. If they're a good person, if they're, what I observe them, how they are with other people. So I really see to the soul of the person. So I see a lot of times people who couldn't see, they do things like that. They're really prejudiced with what they can see.
A lot of times when a person's given a label, there's negative expectations that occur with that label, and systems tend to want to work against the person if they want to break loose of that label. So my chief concern has been in working with professionals to help them to understand that a label or a diagnosis does not define my son, but it's just something that we have to deal with in letting him work through his goals and his dreams.
They should be allowed to do everything that any of the other children are doing.
I lost friends at school because of it. They just, all of a sudden it was like I was different. They didn't know how to talk to me anymore, didn't know how to be around me. Last year of high school, when I was having so much trouble seeing, like one time, I was walking really slow because I couldn't tell the top, where the stairs started, the top of the stairs, and the kids were so impatient they shoved me because I was walking too slow, and they pushed me down a flight of stairs. One thing that's really difficult is either no sidewalks, which is really hard because then you're walking in the street, and a lot of times the shoulder is not maintained very well. But even sidewalks, I've gone to a lot of places, and the sidewalks are in awful shape. There's, they're not level, there's holes in the sidewalk. I mean, it's just like an accident waiting to happen for someone who can't see well. And then a lot of times there's no, definite way to tell if they're, even if there's a sidewalk, where the sidewalk ends and where the street starts. Public restroom, it's not braille labeled the men's or women's room. If I'm by myself, it's just a bunch of a guess which one is which. And then each one is set up so differently. There should be standardizations of all public restrooms. Because you go in there, it's just a hit and miss of, where everything is located. You don't even think of little things like that, but it really makes a difference. When I was younger, and I graduated high school, I lived on Long Island, and then I wanted to get my associate's degree in computer science. So I went to Farmingdale Community College, and to apply. And as soon as the chairman of the department saw me on registration day, he just went and said, "No, you're not allowed to come in and register in my department." I said, what do you mean I'm not allowed to? He goes, "No, I don't want you here. You're incapable of doing this curriculum, and you are just not allowed to register." I registered. I wound up getting all A's, graduating with honors, and getting a job as a computer programmer for 5 years.
The first instance was with a church school that we were interested in enrolling him in for kindergarten, just so that he could just kind of get a sense about school. And we were actually invited not to apply because they said that they were not equipped to handle his disabilities. And then I wouldn't say that he was overtly discriminated against in the public school system, because they obviously knew that it's against federal law to discriminate. But he was discriminated against in small ways. One instance was when he was a senior in high school. His principal and one of the senior sponsors, who was in charge of organizing the senior trip, just forgot to send home information with him about the senior trip, and I didn't find out about it until it was too late to get the application and the money in, and so therefore he was not able to attend. But I felt like that he had been totally discriminated against because they did not want him on the trip. They felt like that he would be a burden. They just sort of orchestrated events to where he would not be able to attend.
My biggest challenges with Isaiah is to keep him in a regular education classroom, and that has been a struggle from the very beginning. So I've had to fight a lot to keep him in the regular education classroom, and even now he's in high school, and every year it's the same battle. I have to bring out the handbook and just make them do what he deserves.
Well, when I went to get a job as a computer programmer, that was really hard. I went on so many interviews, and as soon as I would walk in with the dog, people were like, all of a sudden, their whole attitude changed. Same thing with when I was in Western for my special education degree. I graduated summa cum laude. I wanted to become just a special education teacher and work with children with either behavior disorders or learning disabilities. But I found that it was so hard. They wouldn't give me a chance to be a teacher in the classroom. They said I couldn't handle it because I couldn't see the students and this and this and that. So I wound up getting an add-on certificate in visual disabilities, and then I became an itinerant teacher where I went from school to school and worked on a one-on-one basis with the students with vision impairments. And then it was more accepted because I was blind, they were blind. I just couldn't get people to get over the prejudice. They wouldn't let me do it.
He had one community job when he was, I think, a freshman or sophomore in high school, and where the discrimination came in was that he was held to a higher level of expectation or accountability than his non-disabled peers in reference to behavior. It was okay for his non-disabled peers to take multiple off-schedule breaks, and then when they invited him to participate, he didn't know any better, and he started taking breaks when they took breaks, and so their supervisor got angry, and he was the one that got fired. Nobody else did.
Not directly yet. We have spoke to somebody that helps, is vocational rehab, and that helps prepare him for the workforce. And just speaking to her the one time so far, she talked about certain jobs like McDonald's or Ingles and how he has to be able to do all tasks, not just run the cash register or just cook. And would he be able to do everything that everybody else could do? And if not, that she pretty much didn't know what he could do with her program. And talked about maybe going to fold clothes at the hotel. And so the thought on where he can work really was very limited, and I didn't really agree to that because I think that he should be able to go work anywhere and find the skills that work for him just like any other adult.
There's times where I got like a really hard time bringing my dog on the plane. One time when I went to, I was going to Ukraine, and I was taking the plane from Germany over to Odessa, Ukraine, and when I got there, the pilot said, "No, you're not allowed on the plane." And when I said, "Well, come on, I got to get there, and I have friends waiting for me," then he said, "Well, you're going to have to wait to be fully board, and there has to be like a seat between you and the next person because we're afraid your dog is going to bite somebody or do something, hazardous to the other passengers." And the funny thing was that the person on the other side of the empty seat for me was a lady with a little child, like a toddler on her lap, who screamed the whole plane ride.
Boy Scouts. And once again, it was not overt. We were allowed to join, but he was never assigned to a group. And nobody really knew what to do with him, even though we had non-paid supports there with him who were very willing to assist and volunteer and help. We were never given a group. And after about a month of me calling I don't know what you call them, counselors or whatever you have, saying, when is he going to be assigned a group, I just gave up. Because at that point it had become obvious to him that he was being excluded. and it hurt his feelings. And so he just decided he didn't want to participate anymore. You just keep pushing. You don't take no for answers. If you know you're being discriminated against, you just keep being out there educating, and if necessary, you've got the law on your side. You've got ADA. If it's a physical barrier or other type of employment barriers, use the law. It's there for a purpose. If you're dealing with discrimination in the school community, you've got IDEA. It's just really, really important if you're a parent of a person with a disability or have a family member or a friend with a disability, that you educate everybody who is around you as to what the disability is, what the challenges are, what the joys are of knowing that person with a disability, and keep them out in the community. Because the only way that we're ever going to dispel the fear is for people to get to know them. And so that's why if you have a baby with a disability, you take them everywhere. Do not put them in a corner. Do not be ashamed of them. Do not be ashamed of the behaviors that may come out because of the disability. Keep them out in the community. Get them in the inclusive daycare so that their peers can know them from toddlerhood on up. Keep them in an inclusive classroom all through school, and set high expectations.
Learn early on that you're going to have to fight for them, because they're, no matter who it is, your son or daughter or any family.
If parents would be willing to educate their children on different disabilities, if they see somebody out in the community, instead of trying to hide what's going on, make it something that's open, that's okay. Discuss it with them. Look up things on the internet about it. Maybe have them do projects where they interview people in the community with a disability. Find out more about it. If they see somebody at school has a disability, encourage them to get to know that person. Maybe that'll be their new best friend. If employers would be more open to hiring people with a disability, more people in the community would see them out and about. It's a real trickle-down effect starting from when you're a child all the way on up. People would just be more empathetic towards other people's situations. Try to put yourself in someone else's shoes instead of just assuming that they're incapable. Assume that everybody is capable.
To form a relationship with someone who has a disability and realize that disability is only a small part of who they are. I say it over and over and over again that a disability should never define a person. That's just part of who they are. And the best way to do that is for the community as a whole to embrace those people and to include those people.
I think they just need to educate themselves too. A lot of people discriminate because they are unsure or scared. And the more that they are able to open their hearts to different individuals and the diverse population that we have, the less we're going to have discrimination.